Ciao, jewelry making friends. My name is Joey Balestrieri. For those of you who have not seen my videos before, if you are new, welcome. And if you're returning to my channel, welcome to you as well. I'm so glad you chose my video today. It just means everything. And so what I have on my beading mat today is another project with the Potomac Beads Treasure Box edition for March, and it was called Earthen Serenity. And I have a couple more projects to do, but I also have out here the other things that I have made with this box. And as you can see, it's really diverse. And starting with the bracelet that I'm wearing, I pulled from one of the bead mixes the little glass shells, and I used the seed beads, and there was another mix with like some sky blue colors and some sand colors and a little bit of this pale earthy green. And I did this beautiful knotted bracelet with the cord, and I will link my other videos in the description box of this video, the other ones that I have done with this month's box. I mean, as you can see, it's quite diverse because I've gone from sort of a boho chic ocean themed bracelet, and then I've done quite a few pairs of earrings. These were more of the little seashell beads from the mix, and I just did some simple little drops and another little pair using the waxed linen cord that came in the box. And from Potomac Beads, I have these gold-filled interchangeable lever back ear wires that I keep in my own jewelry wardrobe, and then as my boxes come in and I get beautiful new beads, I only make the drops with a nice loop and they can interchange. So I've done that, and then we got beautiful ear wires in the box this month, and I've done a couple of pairs of earrings. Some I've already given away, but this was a pair that I'm keeping for myself using the beautiful ear wires in the box. So just to show you all of the different variety in the Potomac Beads Treasure Box, you get such a mixture of specialty beads and check glass beads and crystals and stringing material. It's so wonderful and diverse, and I love trying things that I might not have ordered in my own bead order. And so this was another bracelet that I made that I just love. We got a coffee bean beads in this month's box, and in one of the mixes there was this little coffee creamer colored check glass bead that I pulled out, and then I just went into my stash and took out some spacers and a little coffee mug charm, and I have been wearing this bracelet like crazy since I've made it. But that's another one that I did. And then this one I did off camera. Another YouTuber sent me this little fish and hook bracelet clasp, and I've had that in my stash. And I just thought it went so well with these square beads. They're like flat cube beads that we got in this month's box, and just mixed, it's copper, so I just mixed it with some of the copper colored crystals and another color of that waxed linen cord. And so I just kind of did this one off camera. I was literally just playing, and I just think this is a beautiful bracelet and just really timeless and, you know, just elegant. I just love it. So I kind of did that one off camera. I actually was going to film it, and I started playing and nodding, and the next thing I know, the bracelet was done. So just to give you an idea, and you can see that what's in my little dish for today is a whole nother look. So I have just played around with the pattern on some bead stringing wire, and so in the mix that one of the glass mixes that we got, there were these kind of elongated bicone beads in this shiny glass, black glass. There were also these beads in matte, and then this was one of our beads in the box, these gorgeous tile beads that are black and looks like maybe antique gold. And I just love the elegance and the simplicity of that. And so what I did is went into my stash and pulled out some 80 seed beads that they're silver lined gold. So they have this kind of a flash to them. And I just thought they looked great with the black. And I've also gone into my little supplies and pulled some ball head pins that are from Potomac Beads, and it is their Athena cast, that new line, the Athena cast, and they're just to have a high quality plating on these beautiful metals, and I just have really enjoyed working with these. So the other crystals that you see here are from another one of the mixes in this month's box. So very diverse. I'm hoping that I will be able to make this pair of earrings and not need those beads for the length in my bracelet. So that's why they are not completely finished. And I'm going to take my little bead stopper off. I also went into my stash and I just had this vintage glass button in my stash, and I'm going to use that on the closure for this bracelet. It looks great with the things that came in the box. So I am going to have to unstring, maybe not, maybe I can leave my stringing on here. I was literally just playing with my pattern and seeing how things looked before I started filming. And so what I'm going to do on the first end is just thread a crimp tube on first, and I'm using number 2 crimp tubes, and these are gold filled, so they are high quality and they have a nice thick wall to them. So I'm going to thread that on first and then my button. So I'll start with this end, and actually I normally like to have a few seed beads on a button like this where there's this space so that my first bead of my pattern, if you can see, doesn't get stuck under the button. So I think I will do that. Let me take the crimp tube off and put a few seed beads on the mat, because I'm also going to use these same seed beads are not only the spacers in between the tile beads and the elongated glass beads, but those are also going to be my closure. They're going to be the little loop that goes around the button closure. So let me, oh, and I also took these out. I took out from the mix, this was all I had in my mix, were 3 of these little crystals. And I was thinking that they're the same, almost the same color as my seed beads, and I was thinking that I might make use of them on one end, just because they're pretty little crystals. Let me try 3 seed beads and see what that looks like. It actually looks great. Let's feed this button back on and see where that lands as a closure. Oh, that is perfect. You see how the little crystal is peeking out, and so my first black bead isn't just kind of stuck underneath the button. So I really like the way that looks. So let me do that. Let me take the button back off and put the crimp tube on and get my first bit of this bracelet crimped and ready for the stringing. Lately I have been on a bracelet making mode. They just are so much fun. They come together so quickly and they're really fun. I also like that my bead stringing material is going very easily back through a few beads, just because I think it looks nicer. It doesn't really add any strength, but it looks nicer to cut your excess wire down here rather than up near the button. And the first end is very easy to crimp because we don't have to worry about spacing because the other end is still open. But I don't want to waste that much wire, so I'm going to back this out a little bit. And whoops, I went in the wrong direction. I'm just going to pull this, and so I don't waste so much wire. And actually I wouldn't really waste it. I'll show you what I'm going to do. This wire is actually left over from another project, and I'm not 100% sure what it is, but it feels like 7-strand to me. And so for using the magical crimper for these number 2 crimp tubes, which is this crimper for those of you who are not familiar with it, it turns the tube into a little bead. and I quite like that, especially it will hide underneath my button closure. So one of my tricks for getting a really good, perfect little round bead with the magical crimping pliers and a number 2 crimp tube is to put a dummy wire right into that tube. And that is just a wire that's doing nothing more than taking up empty space inside the crimp tube. And you know, if I can, I'll feed it through a few beads as well. It's not really necessary for the beads or for the strength of anything, but it just makes the magical crimping plier work a little bit better as far as turning this tube into a perfectly round bead. And since this is a leftover bit of stringing material that I'm not exactly, it wasn't labeled, I'm not exactly sure, but it feels like 7 strand to me. I know the 49 strand always gives me a really good round bead with only 2 wires, but if this is in fact 7 strand, then that empty space will probably cause me trouble. So let me try to give you a close look. I have just put this extra wire up into that crimp tube, and if you push it all the way through, like, let me see if I can show you, like that, then you have to get your cutters in there and trim that away. So I'm just going to pull it down so that it is hidden inside the tube, and then there's my tail wire from what I pulled. And again, the other end of my bracelet is open, so I don't need to worry about spacing here. And I'm just going to fit that crimp tube right into this little kind of well, this little divot that's in this plier. And if I go slowly, and I've learned to kind of feel when it's in place and centered really well, and then just close the plier as tight as I can. And what it creates is the shape of a little ravioli, where the 4 corners of that tube are now pinched and the tube is flattened. So then if you turn it to the side and fit that sideways into the plier again, and just again make sure that it's centered, have a look top and bottom, and you can kind of feel when it's in there, and then close the plier in the opposite direction. And now we just go around and around, opening and closing the plier. I realize there's a button kind of in the way of what I'm doing, but it's just opening and closing, and you can go in the other direction, and you can also turn the plier or your work, whatever is easiest. And if you take it away and you feel like you didn't get a nice round bead, just reposition it inside the plier, and you can go around a few more times. You always want to be careful, like I have little glass seed beads, so I want to be careful that I'm not closing down really hard on a seed bead and break, you know, you could break your bead and then have to cut it away and start all over. But this feels really good to me, and I have this perfect little bead, and now I can trim that away, that little dummy wire. It can get trimmed right here as close as I can make it, and I'll save that for the other end. And now that little tail wire can just go into a few beads, and now we can work on the other end. So let me check my length. Just put it on my wrist. I'll back out of the camera a little bit, and just I measure on the ruler, but I also like to measure on my wrist. So I'm going to create a seed bead loop that goes around this button, and I really think I got my length just about perfect. So set the ruler aside, and now I'm just going to put the second crimp tube on here and thread on some seed beads. I will not need these crystals for this end because the seed beads, I've got my length just about right, and the seed beads will be okay on their own because they will go behind the button and, you know, loop over the button. So I'm just going to start with maybe 9 seed beads and see how that looks. I'm totally guessing. Here's how you measure to see if you have it right. just put that over the button. You want a snug fit, but you do need to be able to slip it over the button. And sometimes I will actually go ahead and feed my wire back down through the crimp tube without being ready to crimp, just to make this little test of the loop. And I'm feeling like I could probably just put on one more of my 8/0 seed beads. And now I am going to feed this little wire back through the crimp tube and through that first bead, and just pull it tight and test before I crimp, because I can always pull that back out and either add a seed bead or take away a seed bead. Let me just see if I got it right that time. I think I got it perfect that time, and it's going to look like that when it's crimped. That is perfect. Okay, and now we just repeat the same exact thing on this side. I will give this a little tug, but I'm going to do it with my bracelet in a circle, because I don't want it to be rigid or inflexible. I want it to go around my wrist nicely. And then I'm going to do the same thing. I'll go from the top this time and just feed that dummy wire, that little wire for taking up space. Just feed it down through I might be able to even get it. It's inside the bead. That's great, because then I can just trim this bit away. And so before I crimp, I want to make sure that my bracelet is not rigid. And I'm just going to do the same thing as we did on the other end, making sure that I'm not breaking my seed beads or pinching the end of this glass bead in the plier. But you do want to kind of check top and bottom and make sure that your crimp tube is centered, and then just close that plier. And I got my 4 little corners pinched, and now go in the opposite direction. Let me go this way so my hand is out of your view, and just fit it in the middle and close the plier in that direction. And now just have to be careful on this end, because there is no extra space since this is our final closure. So I just want to go around, opening and closing my plier, making sure that I'm not breaking those beads in my loop closure. And just go around, and look at that. It is, I love the magical crimping plier. It gives you an absolutely perfect crimp without the need of a crimp cover, which if you need that bead, I've done videos and shorts where I've shown if you need this bead to be larger, because it is a very petite little unobtrusive closure, you can put a crimp cover right on top of that. But if you don't need it to be larger, then when you've crimped, you are done. And I just love that. And just trim away. Let me see if I can get a little bit closer trim. And I did. Look at that. Super fast and super elegant, and so different from the other bracelets in the box. So that is one of the things I love about the Potomac Treasure Box, is that you can take the diversity of beads and mix them any way you want, or separate them as I have done, where I kind of chose a black and gold bracelet, and then I have a boho beach, chic bracelet, and then a coffee bracelet, and then a darker, heavier sort of cube bracelet with a unusual fish hook. And it's just one of the really wonderful things about getting a curated box from Potomac Beads. They just do a great job. So I'm going to lay this bracelet on my beading mat, and we will make a fast pair of earrings. I have these interchangeable gold-filled ear wires. And so I have all of my drops made and I lay them in a special jewelry box, and I have several pairs of these. I really love these, and so I do have several pairs that I keep for myself. And so all I need to do is make a nice wire wrapped loop, and I'll do this, you know, for newer people or someone struggling with making a wire wrapped loop. I'll just do the steps really slowly. So grab the lady by the neck with your pliers. This space of the plier is the space that you will fill in with the wraps, and give that a 90-degree bend, or, you know, bend it straight forward, and then take that plier away and put your round nose plier in there. And if you want to mark your plier with a Sharpie so that your loops will all be the same, you can. Then you know to lay your wire on that mark. I don't need to do that. I've made hundreds, if not thousands, probably maybe even millions of these loops. And so I kind of guesstimate where to put it. And then I'm going to take the wire and wrap it over the plier. And that is the start of the lady's head. And then I'm going to swing that plier, rotate it so that this barrel is out of my way. And now this is the lady's scarf, and I'm going to bring that forward. And then I kind of roll back to center that loop. And now this little scarf is going to get wrapped around her neck. So I will grab my loop again with my bent chain nose pliers, and this little scarf is going to get wrapped around her neck. And when you're making earrings, you want to try to do the same amount of wraps on both pairs. So if I were counting, I normally do 3, but as I said, these are these beautiful ball head pins from the line that Potomac Beads has recently launched called Athena Cast. And so instead of trimming away, I'm just going to go ahead and use the entire length of the head pin, and I can't find it, and wrap down to the top of my bead. I'm just going to use it up. You know, it's this can be a little tedious for some people, but I don't mind it. And so if this is not something you want to do, then by all means snip away after your second or third wrap and tuck the little cut end. But I'm going to use up the entire length of this beautiful little ball head pin. I really have loved working with these. The quality of these is just amazing. And then at the end you can, you know, tidy up your loop. But I have my earring made, and you know, I have another pair of earrings on my interchangeable lever back ear wires. But that is what I do, and I will keep my drops. I keep them in a little jewelry tray with several pairs of these interchangeable ear wires, and I just have really loved not having to put a fashion base metal ear wire on all of my drops. I really love doing that because all of us jewelry makers, we make a lot of earrings, we make a lot of jewelry, and so it is just one way to cut down on all the different earrings in your jewelry wardrobe. It's kind of my tip and trick for jewelry makers with their earrings. And also I do the same thing with necklaces. I will make my chains that are just plain. I have a gold, a bronze, a copper, and a silver, you know, a stainless steel even. And then as I make pendants, I'll do a large bail on them so they are interchangeable and I don't have so many necklaces hanging in my jewelry wardrobe. So this is a quick and easy and lovely little bracelet and earring set with the beautiful Potomac treasure box for the month of March. And you know, you can use any button here, and I even have a video where I show how to make your own shank button that looks like a rosette out of wire, and I can link that below if you haven't seen that. But if you don't have a button on hand and you would like to do this design, that is a very inexpensive and very easy way to create your own little button for a bracelet closure. So I thank you so much for spending time on my beading mat today. I hope you were inspired in some way by my work today, or that you picked up a little tip or trick for your own work table. And if you haven't subscribed to my channel, I would really appreciate it. It doesn't cost anything or obligate you to anything. And it would just be, really helps my channel, gives support to my channel. And so I wanted to also just mention one other thing. I have realized that, most of us have little furry helpers at our work tables. I have a dog and a cat, and over the course of my videos and my channel, I've shown different things because, like, Bella Cat fell off the windowsill here and made a big ruckus in one of my videos, and she's always on in front of the camera where I film my face the camera videos, and she's always there even if the camera doesn't see her. And my dog Oprah is always underneath my work table, and she loves to retrieve if I have dropped anything, or she's just always there, and she is a service dog from Canine Companion. So anyway, what I was going to ask is that if you all who have furry creatures, furry helpers and supervisors, would care to share pictures and the names of your helpers, I would love to start doing a little regular feature where I show them at the end of the videos and put their names up, so that our community can see all the little workers, all the little jewelry workers. So if that is something you would like to do, I'll put my email on the screen and also in the description of the video. And if you can take a moment to send me an email with a picture of your little furry helpers, that would be so lovely. And then the community can see all of the behind the scenes helpers. So thanks a lot for watching, everybody, and I hope you're having fun on your beading mats. Ciao, jewelry making friends.